Hi, welcome back to my channel, So Very Domestic. I'm May, and today I'm going to show you how to make baklava. A lot of people are intimidated by it, but it's really not that hard, especially if you break it down into steps. First things first, preheat your oven to 350 degrees and then gather your ingredients. Of course, you're going to need phyllo dough, and a quick note about that, you're going to want to take it out of the freezer and move it to the fridge about a day before you want to use it. And then you're going to want to pull it out of the fridge and leave it at room temperature for about an hour before you want to use it. And then I'll show you how to keep it moist while you're working. So aside from your box of phyllo dough, you're going to need 2 cups of honey, half a cup of water, half a cup of sugar, half a cup of butter, and 3 teaspoons of vanilla extract to make the syrup. You're also going to need another half a cup of butter, probably less than that, but I always melt 1 cup of butter and leave like a pastry brush in it so you can easily brush it over the layers. So my walnuts are pieces and halves, and they need to be a little bit smaller than that. Not quite dust, but smaller. So I'm going to throw them in the Ninja for a few pulses. I've just pulsed the walnuts about 2 or 3 times in the Ninja, and then thrown them back into the bowl so the pieces are a little bit smaller. If you've never worked with this before, I can't possibly stress how delicate it is. It's very, 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 very thin. You're mostly going to use 2 pieces at a time. As long as you keep it moist, you're not going to have a problem. So you take a tea towel, like a dish towel for drying, and literally like get it soaking wet and wring it out and then drape it on top of this. My mother has a pan almost exactly like this. She calls it her pastizo pan because she makes pastizo in it because she's Greek. Every Christmas, all through my childhood, she would make spanakopita, batches and batches and batches of it, and stick it in the freezer and give it to all of our family and friends. Anytime somebody came over, they got some spanakopita, and she would heat some up from her own stash. Anyway, and it used phyllo pastry, of course, and she would put her phyllo pastry in her pastizo pan and cover it exactly as I'm going to show you how to cover it. And I shouldn't even really be talking this long and letting it dry out. So one sec. It's at this point that you need to assess the size and shape of the dish you want to use and the size and shape of the phyllo pastry. I am not making a huge amount of this. So this is my dish. It's about 9 by 13, and it is very close to half of a sheet of phyllo dough. So what I'm going to do is literally just cut this in half, and then I'm going to refrigerate half of it to use another time. So what I'm going to do is just cut this dough right in half there, and I end up with double the dough that I started with basically. Now on to the actual assembly process. You very generously butter the bottom of your dish. Then you're going to fold back the wet tea towel and the plastic. You have a layer of plastic, either like plastic wrap or packaging. I just cut the packaging open, but you can use plastic wrap between the phyllo dough and your wet towel. You take 2 pieces out, put it on the butter, and then cover this again so that this is always covered. So you butter the bottom, and then you put 2 pieces of phyllo dough, and then you butter the top of those 2 pieces, and then another 2 pieces. And then you butter the top of those, so that's 4, and then another 2, and butter the top of those, and that's 6. So I have 4 more to add. So it's like phyllo butter, phyllo butter. Some recipes include a little cinnamon in with their walnuts. I put about 3/4 of a teaspoon, like not a whole teaspoonful of cinnamon in with this 5 cups of walnuts. I feel like this is pretty well evenly spread for the first layer. After you fill in layer after layer after layer, you got like some places that have more and some places that have less, but it really ends up working out at the end. So now you put another 2 layers of phyllo, and then butter, and then nuts again. So to recap, we have butter on the bottom of the dish, and then 2 sheets of phyllo, and then butter, and then 2 sheets of phyllo, and butter, and then 2 sheets of phyllo and butter, and now nuts. Now going forward until we get to the top, it's 2 or 3. I usually just put 2, but you could put 3 if you wanted. 2 sheets of phyllo, butter, nuts. 2 sheets of phyllo, butter, nuts, and so on until you run out of nuts or want to stop. The top layer should not have anything on top of it except butter. I wish baklava looked prettier at this point in the process. So we've got butter on the bottom, and then 2 pieces of phyllo, butter, 2 pieces of phyllo, butter, 2 pieces of phyllo, butter. and then nuts, and then 2 pieces of phyllo and butter, and then nuts, and that repeated 3 times. So I have a total of 4 layers of nuts, and then all the in-between layers of phyllo, and then on top I have actually 5 layers of phyllo with butter. Now we're going to start cutting it, and the first cut is just going to be like straight across diagonal, the longest way, or up this way, whatever. So there's the first cut. You're really going to want your knife to be sharp. If you have like a sharpening stone, I highly recommend sharpening your knife right before you use it. I mean, sharpen it, wash it, and then use it, because you really need a good cut on this. Now you're just going to make, like, each piece is going to be, you know, those lovely diamond shapes. So you're just going to make more diagonal lines this way and then go the other way. I do wish it looked nicer than this, but that's basically the shape you're going for. You're going for like these triangle shapes, and these like edge triangle shapes. So now you put it in your preheated oven for about 45 minutes until it's all crispy and brown and golden. While the baklava is in the oven, you can work on your syrup. Once everything melts together, just keep mixing it. It doesn't really scorch that easily, but don't walk away from it. And then bring it to a boil. Once it's boiled, turn it down and let it simmer to thicken, maybe about 5 minutes or so. I mean, you'll see, like, it'll be a lot thicker than this once it's boiled and simmered for a while. And then you just want to let it set for about 15 minutes. So here we are after 45 minutes. I think it looks pretty beautiful. I highly recommend moving your syrup from your small pot into a cup with a spout of some kind. And what you want to do is try to evenly distribute maybe half of your mixture, about a cup's worth, and then let it sit and absorb for a little bit, and then add a little bit more until you feel like it's all moistened. And then you want to let it sit for as long as you can stand it. Ta-da! We've already nicked a few pieces out of it, and it is so good. It's mostly absorbed all the honey. It probably won't really absorb all the honey. I mean, maybe we'll see what happens in the morning, but at this point it's good enough to serve. If you do choose to make this recipe, I would love to hear about it in the comments, or better yet, I would love if you would make a video about it and then link that in the comments. But either way, I would love to hear from you and see how it went. Thank you, as always, for watching this video. If you did find it encouraging or helpful, please give it a thumbs up to show some support. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel for more updates. Thanks, bye.